Hey, it's Tracy. Listen, Emily and I are working our tushies off to make this show profitable, or at least to break even. You can help without spending a dime. Positive reviews help other listeners find us. So please, take a moment and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Or if you're listening on Spotify, give us a rating. Thanks.
You saw me meet my mother, and then I have to forget that. But Man-at-Arms, even though he is not my birth father, he raised me, comforted me, has been my father since I was a little girl. He is my father, just as anyone who takes care of you and raises you and is your parent. And so it was this lovely message about like the importance of family being the family who cares for you.
Have you ever had something you love dismissed because it's just pop culture? What others might deem stupid shit, you know matters. You know it's worth talking and thinking about. And so do we. So come overthink with us as we delve into our deep thoughts about stupid shit.
I'm Emily Guy Birkin, and you're listening to Deep Thoughts About Stupid Shit. Because pop culture is still culture. And shouldn't you know what's in your head? On today's episode, I'll be sharing my deep thoughts about the 1980s era cartoon, as well as the live-action film from 1987, He-Man and Masters of the Universe, with my sister, Tracy Guy Decker, and with you. Real quick before we dive in, I am going to ask you, listener, if you haven't already, please follow Deep Thoughts About Stupid Shit on wherever you get your pods. If you are on Apple, you can hit the follow button, the plus sign. If you're on Spotify, it is a button that says follow. Thank you very much. We really appreciate it. Now that I've said that, let's dive in. So Tracy, I know you are familiar with He-Man, and you actually have more vivid memories of my enjoyment of this show than I do. Because it ran from 1983 to 1984 originally, although it was in syndication for many years after that. And I was like in my deep He-Man phase as a very little girl. But tell me what's in your head about He-Man.
The first thing that comes to mind is how much you loved it. The second thing that comes to mind is that I really liked She-Ra when it came out. I thought it was really cool. And you dismissed it out of hand because it did not follow the pattern established by He-Man, because it should have been She-Woman if it was He-Man. And so you wouldn't even give it the time of day. And I remember being fairly like frustrated with you because it was a really good show, in my opinion, and better than He-Man in many ways. So those are the first two things that come to mind. And then I start to remember some of the characters, like not their names, not their names at all. But I loved the two regular good guy female characters. So I looked it up. Teela was the one who wore the brass bra, and I really liked Teela. And then there was the sorceress who dressed like a bird, sort of. And I think she could transform into a bird, too. Yeah, I dug her a lot. There was a little, like, floating ghost thing.
Orko.
I dug him. He had a weird high nasal voice, I think. And was like the comic relief a little bit. I liked him. He-Man's and Prince Adam's steed, although I don't think he rides him when he's Prince Adam.
He does not.
The tiger, the like green tiger, who's like kind of a fraidy cat, that I remember enjoying that kind of juxtaposition of this like big, strong tiger who was like kind of afraid of everything. And in fact, I was talking with one of my partners about the show, and he was like, I never watched it, but it looked like super macho and stuff. And I was like, well, Battle Cat cried a lot. Like, that's what's in my head. I don't remember any of the plot. Obviously, I remember Skeletor. We all remember Skeletor because he's a meme now. But I don't remember any of the plot. I don't remember why Skeletor and He-Man were fighting. I don't remember how the power of Grayskull worked, only that it did. And it turned like a normal, like, space dude who carried guns into like a barbarian who wore fur underpants. But I don't know why or how. Okay. It doesn't, like, the show didn't know why either. So, okay.
So I could have done a much deeper dive. There was like an hour-long YouTube video that was like, here is the full lore of the He-Man
Masters of the
universe. And I was just like, no, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, no.
But you loved this show as a child. And so it was hilarious in the past couple days while you were prepping for today's episode when you were like, I almost died of boredom watching this TV show, because I remember when we were children and you would be like, let's watch He-Man. And I'd be like, okay. I guess so. I mean, it was broadcast, so nothing else was on. So I watched it.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's what I got. But tell me, besides what I've already said, why are we talking about He-Man today?
So He-Man has this odd place in my pop culture memory in that it holds this place in my heart. I don't really remember consuming it, but it like has this big shadow over my childhood. I remember the toys, and that's the whole point. The TV show came about because they are advertisements. They were advertisements for Mattel toys. The toys came first. But the thing is, the franchise became much bigger than the toys, and the level of pop culture affection for this character and this like world building, such as it is so beloved. So you sent me a shirt for my birthday many years ago that I still have and wear regularly that has Skeletor. It says, I don't like to feel good, I like to feel evil, that I wear regularly. And I get more comments on that shirt. People are like, Skeletor! They're so excited to see it. And I was out grocery shopping. I wasn't thinking about what shirt I was wearing. I was out grocery shopping, and like from down the aisle, a guy behind the meat counter saw me and he was like, Skeletor! And this guy, he was probably in his late 20s.
Oh my God. Like, he was a kid.
Yeah, he did not live through He-Man originally. So like, there is something so enduring about these characters.
Well, speaking of, we're recording this like the week that the new movie's being released.
Exactly.
So way to go on topical choices, Em. Did you know when you scheduled this?
I didn't know. I knew there was a movie coming out. I was thinking it was like much later this year. I didn't realize it was so soon. So I find it fascinating that what was like a cash grab, that there were parents groups that were up in arms, horrified that they were doing this. That, you know, on a previous episode, we had Aaron Reynolds on to talk about the Log Driver's Waltz, talking about how they were not allowed to have advertisements in Canada.
Yeah, in Canada, this show would have been illegal.
Yeah, this show would have been illegal, but has such staying power.
Yeah.
And is so beloved that there's something that blows my mind about that because of the intersection of art and commerce. And how, like, as a parent, I am kind of horrified at the idea of like, yeah, we're selling crap to kids. And yet at the same time, they created something that's beloved and enduring. And I really want to think about that and talk about that.
Yeah, let's get into that, because I think we have talked briefly about that in the past, about like some of the advice that you give to your kids. I want to circle back to that, but yeah, we'll get there.
So that's part of it. There's also part of like, why did I love it so? Like, why was that when I was not interested in She-Ra, and it was because of like the pattern break, I was not able to articulate it at the time. It wasn't until we were adults that I told you that's why I didn't like She-Ra.
Really?
Yeah.
Because in my head, it's from when you were little and you were like, no. That's funny how I have edited my memories. Because in my memory, like 5-year-old Emily was like, no, it should be She-Woman and I'm not watching it.
But so like, I want to kind of unpack what was exciting to me about this show. And I mean, it was the muscular men.
Which it definitely was. There was no question in my mind. For you, that's what it was. Because even at the time, you were 5 and I was 8, and I was like, I like this chick. She's cool. I want to be like her. And you were like, no, this man, he's cool. You look at him, he's half naked.
Yeah. I liked it when Skeletor was like intimately involved in his schemes instead of sending his minions who were like covered in fur and ugly.
Skeletor, but Skeletor's a skeleton.
He's all muscular too.
Oh, but he has muscles under his skull.
His face is a skull, but the rest of him, very muscular.
He's jacked.
He's very jacked. And Skeletor and He-Man are the original like enemies to lovers.
I mean, they're not. But for you, they are.
Well, you've seen that commercial from England.
I know that they are. I know people ship them and enemy. I'm just saying, like, enemies to lovers predates this show in the 80s. That's what I'm saying. For you, they're the OG. But for culture, they're not the OG.
For culture, right. Okay, yes, Lizzie Bennet and Mr. Darcy are the original.
Probably there's something even before that Austin was reading, you know? Anyway. Okay. All right. We digress. Oh my God.
So let me give you a couple of postcards from the destination.
Yeah.
This is going to be a little bit inchoate because I was watching it and like my 12-year-old wandered in and was just like, what are you watching? And my spouse came in at some points. He's just like, wow, things have really progressed since the 80s. And there were times where like, I don't know what the heck I'm going to talk about. I'm watching some of these. And like the first one, I watched the very first episode of the first season. And I was like, this is so boring. I'm going to die.
You told me that.
And part of it was because I was just watching it. Like when I found that I was like, I'm working on a craft project. So I'm watching as I'm doing something with my hands. I'm like, that was much easier to do. Instead of paying close attention. Anyway, there are several things I want to talk about. As I mentioned, I want to talk about how Mattel created this enduring artistic legend that is beloved because they wanted to sell toys.
Yeah.
And like what that means and how that works. And like a lot of this, I'm coming like kind of blank and going to need you to help me figure it out.
Yeah, okay.
So I want to talk about like how it worked that they did, like what they did right, because they did market research before creating it. So I'm going to talk about some of the things that they did to kind of, and some of this is just going to be history. I'm going to give you history. So they ended each episode with a moral of the story.
I do remember that.
Yeah.
I remember like Prince Adam looking directly, or sometimes as He-Man, like looking directly at the camera. I mean, it was a drawing, but, and like telling me what I just had watched.
Yeah.
Like what my takeaway was.
And like some of that was just like the 80s was like, it's a very special episode. Like everything in the 80s had a moral, but how that was partially kind of to make sure that Mattel had like a cover its ass. Like, no, we're good for kids. But there was actually something quite good and compelling in that, and that they really were kind of doing something there. So I want to talk about that. I want to talk about how there was actually some pretty reasonably decent gender representation. It's surprisingly Bechdel adjacent. It's hard to say because it's, you know, a TV show, so each episode is different.
So each episode might not pass, but as a franchise, it certainly passes.
Yes. And then I do want to specifically talk about the 1987 film starring Dolph Lundgren as He-Man, also starring Christina Pickles as the Sorceress, Frank Langella as Skeletor. Mwah, just perfect. He did an amazing job. And then Courtney Cox has a starring role.
What?
Courtney
She
Cox
must have been really young.
Oh, yeah. She plays a teenager.
Okay.
So she's a human teenager who gets involved in the whole thing.
I see.
So I want to talk a little bit about how the show kind of winks at the audience a little bit, which was missing from the movie, because I kind of remember seeing the movie. I think I saw it. There were a couple scenes where I was like, this looks familiar, and like dismissing it out of hand because it didn't feel like my He-Man. And the winks at the audience, and like there's a specific character that was missing that bothered me. And then I really want to talk about the homoeroticism and queer subtext and how that relates to why I liked it. So those are some of the things. Oh, and I do want to talk about the animation. So Those
Cool.
are some of the postcards from the destination.
Well, remind me of the show because, like, I told you the sum total of my memory, which is like 4 characters and the fact that there was a moral and that the cat cried.
So the very beginning of He-Man starts with the monologue. It says, I am Adam, Prince of Eternia and defender of the secrets of the Castle Grayskull. This is Cringer, my fearless friend. Fabulous secret powers were revealed to me the day I held aloft my magic sword and said, by the power of Grayskull, I have the power. Cringer became the mighty battle cat, and I became He-Man, the most powerful man in the universe. Only 3 others share this secret. Our friends, the Sorceress, Man-at-Arms, and Orko. Together we defend Castle Grayskull from the evil forces of Skeletor. So that is how every episode begins. So Adam is the son of King Randor and Queen Marlena, who is a human astronaut who crash landed on Eternia. She was 1,000,000 miles away from Earth.
Oh.
We find that out in the 2nd episode of the show. And we never, now again, I did not do deep dive, so it's probably answered somewhere. But generally, we don't know. I learned the fabulous secrets when I held aloft the sword and said, by the power of Grayskull, I have the power. What made you think to do that?
Why did you do that? Yeah.
I don't know why Castle Grayskull is so important, so special.
Or fragile that,
yeah,
it needs to be defended. Yeah. And I
So-
bet the sword has like a little inscription on the back that says, hold aloft, say these words.
Urgency. So Prince Adam does not tell his parents. He does not tell Tila, who is his best friend, and Man-at-Arms' adoptive daughter. We don't know. Man-at-Arms has a name. I don't remember what it is. It's mentioned at some point.
Oh,
but
that's not his name?
that's his title.
Okay.
He's Man-at-Arms.
Got it.
So I'm sure Tila at some point finds out that Prince Adam is He-Man. I don't know how they don't know, because it's not like He-Man wears a mask.
Right.
I guess
And then Adam doesn't wear glasses, so it's not even like Clark Kent.
Yeah.
he takes his clothes off and they're so blinded by
the
his
man
pecs.
flesh.
Yeah.
And so everyone's always mad at Prince Adam because he
For
doesn't
not
help
being
out.
there.
Yeah. Well, they don't know that Cringer and Battlecat look pretty much exactly the same, except that Battlecat he does wear a mask and he wears a saddle. How many green tigers are there?
Tiger wears a mask. Well, now I can't recognize it. Who's that green tiger with the mask? And where did Cringer go?
Yes. So Skeletor wants control of Castle Grayskull. Again, not entirely clear why.
Are he and King Radnor, is that his
Randor.
name? Randor. Are they brothers or something?
I think we find out later. Yes. I don't know. Like, I just saw something in the Wikipedia.
Oh, no, I'm thinking of the Lion King.
What's interesting is the very first episode, there is no like origin story or anything. It's just like, other than the fact that Adam starts every episode with that
same
voiceover. So we just start, and like, you know what? That makes sense with the 80s TV shows.
Yeah.
So we just start right off with, this is Skeletor, like, this is how I will finally defeat He-Man. And he has a new thing, and he calls in all like,
Doesn't he call them the Horde? I think they're the Horde.
Yeah. So there are several minions that he uses all the time. There's Evil Lynn. So it's like Evelyn, but her name's Evil Lynn.
Oh, does she wear like blue? And she's
Yes.
real sexy too?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. All the way.
Yeah, I liked her.
And then there's Beast Man, and then Merman.
A merman's really bumbling, and he has a weird voice that like
Yes.
sounds like that. Yeah. And he makes a lot of mistakes, and he's really bumbling.
Yeah.
I remember this show better than I thought.
Yeah. And there's always some sort of thing going on. What's interesting about Eternia is that it is both kind of medieval, like barbarian world, right? Because we've got a king and queen, people have swords, but it is also futuristic because people have laser guns.
Right.
They are riding like these like floating scooter things that have laser guns, and Man-at-Arms is an inventor, and he's always inventing things, as is Orko, who uses magic. And like space travel is possible in this world.
Right. Well, Marlene is an astronaut.
Yes. Yes. So it's very, very like interesting how all of this works out. And in fact, in the Masters of the Universe live action movie with Dolph Lundgren, they were not able to, and this was, I feel like, why I didn't like the movie. Orko was always my favorite character. He's like kind of a floating ghosty kind of guy. He's got an O on his...
Like a floating robe.
Yeah.
But a short one.
Short one with golden eyes and like no face. But it's
like
black.
Those things in Star Wars that sell droids.
Yeah, no, I've forgotten their names. But yes, yeah. So because he floats, it was going to be like really difficult to create him with 1980s.
1987 special effects.
Special effects, especially for a relatively low budget movie.
Yeah.
So they created a different character who was also an inventor, and he invented something called a cosmic key that could send you anywhere. And so in an attempt to get away from Skeletor, it was He-Man, Man-at-Arms, Tila, and this new character, Gwildor, who was a Thenurian, which was basically like a very little kind of dwarf-like character. They were like, we don't have time to program it. We'll just go anywhere. And they end up on Earth.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's how they meet Courtney Cox.
Courtney Cox. Got
her
it.
boyfriend. Yeah. So it's fascinating. Like all of this just random shit. So I want to get into like the history of how this came to be. So in 1976, George Lucas approached Mattel and said, new movie coming out. Would you like to do the merchandising for the toys? And part of the reason why they said no, but not the entire reason, like part of it was they were just like, this looks like ridiculous shit, no. But part of it was also George Lucas gave them a very difficult timeline of, we want to try to get this out for Christmas 1977, which was a very, very difficult timeline. And Mattel said no. And that was a very, very stupid decision on Mattel's part.
Right.
I couldn't tell you, I don't remember which toy company said yes, but, obviously.
There were toys.
There were toys, and they made all the money because I had those toys.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. We all did.
So Mattel was not doing well. And so after that happened, they started thinking like, okay, we need to try to figure out a way to like get more toys in kids' hands. Now, back in the late 60s, they had a TV show that was, and I'm blanking on the name of the toy cars that Mattel has, the Hot Wheels, thank you. They had a Hot Wheels TV show that was successfully like fought against because other toy companies were like, this is not fair. They can't have a 30-minute advertisement.
And Mattel won.
No, not at the time.
Oh, Mattel lost.
Well, I'm not clear on exactly what happened, but the show ended. And there were tightened restrictions, but then Reagan became president.
Oh.
And so there was a lot of deregulation. So all throughout this, Mattel was working on toys. They specifically wanted to appeal to the demographic of 5 to 10-year-old boys. And they were doing market research. And their market research found that 5 to 10-year-old boys were most interested in barbarians, army men, or soldiers, and space. And so they were, in the late 70s, they were kind of coming up with the prototype of like He-Man, basically.
That would be all three of those things.
All three of those things. So meanwhile, Conan the Barbarian movie was coming out, and the movie approached Mattel and said, hey, you want to do our merchandising? They're like, yeah, sure. They got pretty far into it and then discovered that it was going to be an R-rated movie, not so good for 5 to 10-year-old boys. And so they each mutually severed the contract. It took a little while for the deregulation about TV shows and stuff like that to go through. So Mattel was going forward with He-Man toys. And so they were introducing it with comic books So the toys did exist before the TV show did. So they had comic books. They introduced it through DC, where Superman met He-Man.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Huh.
Skeletor controlled Superman. So Superman had to fight He-Man.
What?
I know. Now, all of this I know because there was a wonderful YouTuber, and I will link to this particular video in the show notes, that gave all of this history. It was fascinating. But Mattel wanted more because not all 5-year-olds, they want to hook them young. Not all 5-year-olds can read, even comic books. So they finally got to the point where they were able to, because of the deregulation, because thanks, Reagan, they were able to put together the TV show using the same artists who had been creating this He-Man art from the very beginning, from the late 70s. At this point, the Conan the Barbarian folks got annoyed and sued them. They lost because Mattel could show receipts that they'd been working on this for years.
Yeah, we talked about that when we did the Beastmaster episode.
So I'm telling all of this because it was a cultural phenomenon. Like, everybody loved it. Now, some of it was like they flooded the zone. I mean, like, they didn't just do a Saturday morning cartoon because that's what was common. They did 5 days a week. It only ran for 2 seasons, which blew my mind. But each season was 65 episodes. There are 130 episodes total of the original run. And it ran from 1983 to 1984 because they ran 5 days a week, Monday through Friday.
How did they get the stations to?
They syndicated. And part of the reason why they syndicated was because they couldn't get the Saturday morning cartoon stations to accept it. To bite.
Oh. And then it worked out in their favor.
It worked out in their favor.
Oh.
But the thing that I find really fascinating is that because they did this market research and they're like, what do boys like? All right, let's give it to them. It's this beloved franchise 43 years later.
Yeah.
More than 40. I mean, they started working on it in the late 70s, like nearly 50 years later. It is this franchise that is a undeniable part of Gen X culture and beyond.
And younger. Everybody
and younger.
Gen X and younger. Yeah.
Yeah. They said, what do boys want to watch? All right, let's give it to them.
Yeah.
And what I think is interesting is, like, they wanted to sell toys, but they didn't say, like, we're going to give them the toys that we're making. They said, we'll give them the toys that they want.
Let's make the toys they want rather than sell them the toys we made. Yeah.
And they're like, well, we'll tell stories that make sense around the toys that they want. Not that the stories make sense, but they do. I mean, like,
they have a beginning, middle, and end, at least.
They are coherent. And they have these coherent, like, world building that is open-ended imagination-wise, that offers opportunity for play. Because you could buy Castle Grayskull. You could buy Skeletor lived in Snake Mountain. You could buy Snake Mountain. So it offered these open-ended opportunities for play within the things that children wanted. And so we talked a little bit recently about listening to children. There's something kind of wonderful about that.
Well, I think there's something really interesting too in the morals that you had forgotten. But as I remember, and it's been a long time, but my recollection is that they were sort of like citizenship lessons, or that's the wrong word, but like civilization lessons, like about being courteous and about like being friendly and being kind and like, and I kind of even like my recollection of like Battle Cat being like anxious and crying all the time. I feel like there were also like social emotional learning lessons within those things as well. And so there's something really like, there's an interesting tension that I'm finding generative and satisfying in taking like little boys being like soldiers, yeah, and like barbarians, yeah, and space, yeah, and then like putting social emotional learning around that. Like there's something like really like, yes, but in a responsible way. I mean, subversion is often responsible, but like using the things to which these young boys are drawn naturally. Giving them the opportunity for imaginative play, which you've already named, but putting then these guardrails around it about like treating people with respect, about like to my recollection, like Battle Cat is never shamed for being afraid or for crying, right? Like he's comforted for it. You know, and there's so like all of like the social emotional learning around barbarians and soldiers and like laser ray guns. There's something, and I'm sure that the stories are reductive, but we're also talking about 5 to 10-year-old boys. So like how much nuance can we actually give them? So I don't know. I'm like actually feeling like when we first talked about it before we hit record, I'm like, oh my God, money grab. Like like I even wrote in our notes, like our entire childhoods were just one long commercial. But wrapped around the commercial was this actually sort of responsible pedagogy on the part of Mattel.
One of the episodes that I saw was, so Tila, as I mentioned, she is Man-at-Arms' adoptive daughter. And so she is talking to him. In this episode, he has invented something that allows you to like view your memories. And so Queen Marlena is viewing her memory of crash landing on Eternia. And Tila is saying, like, I wish I could see a memory of my mother. And she asks Man-at-Arms about her parents. And he says, you know, your father was one of the most honorable men I ever knew. He died in battle. And she says, well, what about my mother? And he says, I made a promise that I would not tell you about your mother. And so there's one person who can tell her. It's an oracle in a dangerous place. And so she goes by herself to the oracle in the dangerous place, and He-Man goes after her to help because she can take care of herself, but this is not a place to go by yourself. So she goes, and the oracle shows her what happened. She is the sorceress's daughter. And the sorceress, when she was a baby, the Man-at-Arms found the baby in the sorceress's nest as a condor. And the sorceress, realizing after her husband had died that her child would always be in danger if people knew that she was her child. And so she asked the Man-at-Arms to raise her and please keep their relationship secret. And she comes and says to Tila, like, you are my daughter. I love you. Someday we will be able to be together as mother and daughter, but it's not today. And we will be very powerful together, but you are still in danger, something along those lines. So I need to erase your memory of this moment, but someday we can do this. And then at the end, the moral
of the story.
Yeah. Tila says, you saw me meet my mother, and then I have to forget that. But Man-at-Arms, even though he is not my birth father, he raised me, comforted me, has been my father since I was a little girl. He is my father, just as anyone who takes care of you and raises you and is your parent. And so it was this lovely message about like the importance of family being the family who cares for you.
Yeah.
And it was just like, I was sitting there going like, oh... It's like, Tila, Man-at-Arms. So yeah, Mattel took their responsibility seriously, or at least the writers they hired.
Well, they hired writers who took it seriously. So, I mean, I don't think that's an accident. I don't think that happens by coincidence.
Yeah. And that gets into so the surprisingly Bechdel adjacent, that was a moment where... So it was a show created specifically for little boys. It's toys specifically created for little boys. But there are strong women throughout it. Tila is consistently shown to be very capable. He-Man did have to come rescue her in this scenario, but he's like saying like, oh, I know she can handle herself. This is not a place to go by yourself.
Yeah, so it's more about support than about rescue.
Yes, although he does have to rescue her because someone comes in anyway. But the sorceress is the most powerful being in Eternia. And when someone would say thank God, they say thank the sorceress or sorceress bless you, that sort of thing. So like there's definitely a sense of strength there. Another episode I saw, they turned to Queen Marlena for scientific help. That sort of thing. So it would be something that Man-at-Arms would usually do, but he is the one who is in trouble. So she's like, okay, I'll look at his stuff. I don't necessarily understand how he does his things, but I do have a scientific background. And then not always, but sometimes Evelyn is Skeletor's second in command. So there are strong women throughout. So there's a reason why you were like, yeah, I really like Tila. I really like Sorceress. Like, there are people that are like cool to watch in this. So it feels more balanced than you might expect for a show where, like, we want to appeal to little boys who like barbarians and soldiers and
to sell them toys.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that gets to some of the, like, where we started when you were like, I don't know where I'm going with this. Because I think when we start from that premise, then there is an impulse to therefore dismiss the art that is created because it was created for the wrong reasons. But I think that is narrow-minded. And it's the same kind of impulse that dismisses genre fiction, frankly, that sort of says, like, no, there's a secret sauce. And if you actually have instructions for how to build your fiction, then you must be doing it wrong because it's actually inspiration that comes from, I don't know, God or the sorceress. And yeah, and therefore, like, it's somehow illegitimate. And I think what you're seeing, and the reason there's cognitive dissonance, is that, like, legitimate stories and lessons and pedagogy and art that continues to appeal was generated out of these wrong reasons. I'm putting quotes around wrong reasons, this commercial reasons, which there is cognitive dissonance around that. As art makers, like, how many times have we been told, like, don't chase the money because it always runs faster. You have to make art that, like, you want to make. And then if it's right, it'll find its audience, or whatever, you know, whatever those lessons are that we get as artists. He-Man didn't do that. It did not do that. And maybe it did, right? Like, we've also talked about the power of constraint and guardrails and the creative power of that. So what if we looked at this as, instead of like Mattel saying we want to make money by selling toys, what if we're actually looking at the writers? Because you named them a little while ago. And we sort of say a writer is given the task, you have to write a compelling story. Here are your constraints. And then they did. And they gave us characters that are interesting. And they gave us storylines that stay with people, and, like, a villain who has someone way too young to have watched the original episode shouting his name in the grocery store. So maybe that's like, so today you watch Tila. Maybe that's the lesson, actually, is that, yeah, Mattel maybe did it for the wrong reasons, but they're a business, actually. Like, they did it for the only reasons businesses ever do it. And then they were smart enough to hire writers who cared about their craft and or whatever, cared about kids, all of the above, and used the constraint of, like, trying to make these storylines appeal so that we can sell toys, a creative constraint.
Yeah. Well, and they also, not just the writers, but also the artists who were doing the concept art, because I'm thinking about the constraints of concept art that can then be turned into plastic figurines, because they'd already, I don't know if it's market research, but but deciding that a 5.5-inch toy that has, like, certain things, like what could be flexible and what couldn't be, like, those kinds of constraints as well can be really fascinating for the people doing the hand-drawn animation based, and, like, before that, the people doing the concept art, like, seeing the original concept art is fascinating because it looks just like, and then not at all like
what we landed on. Yeah. We're getting close to the end. I do not want to end this episode without talking about homoeroticism and queer subtext. We can save animation for the shit we've got to say, but we got to talk about homoeroticism before talking about He-Man on Deep Thoughts About Stupid Shit. So what you got?
There's no reason within the story why anyone can't know that Adam is He-Man. Like, it's not really explained, other than like the delight of dramatic irony.
Would Prince Adam be in danger if people knew?
I mean, maybe, like, if Skeletor knew, that might, but
but he's already in danger as the prince. Yeah.
And there's definitely no reason why, like, Tila can't know and why his parents can't know. So Now that gets to a little bit of I talked about the show winks at the audience. And so like some of that is like, it is partially, it's fun for the kids to be like, oh, yay, it's this moment. And some of it is they can sell more because they can sell Prince Adam and they can sell He-Man.
Yeah.
And that is also part of the reason, one of the other reasons why I think I didn't like the Dolph Lundgren film is he's He-Man the entire time. You never see
he's
him as
never Prince Adam.
And I was like, no. We got to see, like, we have him say, I have the power. But I'm like, no. We got to see him transform.
Yeah.
Come on. But as a metaphor for being in the closet, it is unmatched.
Yeah.
Especially considering his battle cat is named Cringer. So, like, as He-Man, he is out and proud. Like, he is just... I mean,
sun's out, guns out.
Yeah, exactly. Sky's out, thighs out. Yeah. He is fully leather daddy. I mean, like, fur daddy, like, everything.
It's not leather, though. He's not a leather daddy. Like,
no.
It's... I don't know what
barbarian
the word
daddy.
is.
He's just
like,
I mean,
he's wearing
harness daddy.
Yeah, and like fur underpants.
Yeah.
The battle shorts they call them.
Yeah,
I did some research for a hangout recently.
Yeah, so like he is fully like, this is me. Look at my rippling pecs, and like just fully embracing his sexuality.
Yeah. His masculinity. As Prince Adam, doesn't he wear pink? It's purple.
Which is associated with royalty, but
it's like lavender, isn't it?
It is lavender, yes.
Yeah.
But that's also like, so lavender is also kind of associated a little bit with like
a lavender marriage.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And so there is this sense of like, he has this dual role, like he's hiding. So he's, as Adam, he is a upright, cishet,
mild-mannered,
yes,
and journalist.
Yes. Who is expected to marry Tila at some point.
Oh, I didn't know they were romantically connected.
According to Wikipedia, eventually they get married.
A lavender marriage.
But Skeletor is weirdly obsessed with He-Man. For reasons that don't make a whole lot of sense. There's also the phallic image of the Sword of Grayskull. And the, like, I have the power while holding a sword aloft. There's a lot there. Which also, is not that I want to go digging around in my own psyche, but, like 4-year-old Emily is loving this show, and then 47-year-old Emily is like loving heated rivalry. And it's like, I wonder if there's some relationship there. But there is a great deal of queer subtext, and He-Man is considered a queer icon among the gay community. Now, I know this way over my head as a kid. All I knew, I liked watching He-Man. I liked watching Prince Adam as well because his clothes are skin tight.
Yeah.
I mean,
they're not like leggings and yeah.
Now he's got like a tunic over like a skin tight shirt, so like it's not quite as revealing.
Yeah.
And I am curious because I think I mentioned 30% of the viewership of He-Man was girls, which was not at all what Mattel expected. And that was why they created She-Ra. They're like, oh, we got this viewership. Let's capture it.
Yeah. And for you, it didn't work. But like for me, it really worked.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I loved She-Ra. We'll have to do another episode where I go back and watch the original and watch the reboot and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, honestly, that's undiagnosed ADHD where I was just like, that's not the pattern. Pattern's interrupted. I'm sorry. No. No, you can't do that. Like, raw is not even a word. So they lost some percentage of their audience who was too literal. But I'm curious, like, about like who was watching, who was drawn to this, because I am now realizing as an adult that a lot of the things that I was drawn to had queer subtext that I didn't recognize. Now, some of it was, I have liked handsome men always.
Right.
But some of it is like, there have been things where like, I didn't realize it was queer coded, but I just really liked it.
Yeah.
And I am curious about the queer subtext of, which is not even really subtext. It's just there. Like I was watching one episode where He-Man's on one of those like flying scooter things. And like,
Yeah.
the way that they drew it, it's not like he can't sit on it like a motorcycle. He's got to like sit with his butt hanging off. And I'm just like, why did they draw it that way? Like, it's a drawing. You can draw it any way you want. You couldn't draw it so he can sit with it a little more comfortably so his butt is fully on the seat. So I'm assuming some of the animators were doing this on purpose.
Yeah, I wonder. I'm curious too, and we don't have time to unpack this in this episode, but maybe we'll talk about it and shit we forgot to say. Like when, like we talked about Highlander a couple of episodes ago, and the way that that appealed to men who probably didn't see it as queer subtext, but like it's there. Like, what does that do? Like, I'm curious about the psychology of that. Like, like the people who are drawn to it because they saw themselves, because they themselves are queer, and the people who just like liked it didn't see it, and then if we pointed out would be like, no it's not, you know, like all the like they were roommates, like the sort of the denial that sort of cishet mainstream, the compulsive heterosexuality that happens, that maybe Tila and Adam getting married is part of that, and like what role that serves for the kind of heterosexual folks who still want to enjoy homoerotic cartoons. Like it makes it like okay for them. Yeah. Anyway, we are though out of time. So I'm going to reflect back to you what we talked about He-Man, and we will definitely be recording a shit we forgot to say for our patrons. So listener, head on over to our Patreon and you can get access to that. So we talked about the fact that we spent actually kind of a lot of time talking about the fact that this cartoon show was actually created explicitly to sell toys. But it's like an interesting chain. The toys were created explicitly to appeal to what little boys wanted. So, and not guessing what they wanted, but after having asked them what they want. Like Mattel did research. Because they screwed the pooch on the Star Wars thing, they needed to like figure out a way to sell a bunch of toys rather than like guessing, like in the movie Big, right? Like they actually were like, well, what do little boys want? They want space, they want soldiers, and they want barbarians. So we're going to give them all three all at once. And that created, I mean, we came to the realization that though initially there's a certain repulsion to that idea, and there was at the time, because of the way it ended up happening, someone at some point, multiple someones, sort of saw this as creative constraint rather than as like a mandate to sell toys. And we ended up with this franchise that has enduring staying power, in part because we named that it has strong female characters, it has interesting social emotional learning that is said outright, like they underline the thesis, the episode that you watched about Tila and like what makes a parent, and it's love and care. So there were things that were in some ways very subversive to what one would imagine was in line with the original idea of selling toys. And I think that is actually what made it the powerful franchise that it has become. You talked a bit about the film, the 1987 Dolph Lundgren film that has Courtney Cox in it, of all people, and how the ways in which it was and wasn't your He-Man. Like, I think it sounds like on rewatch, you actually enjoyed watching it, and it was kind of like a fun exercise. At the time, you didn't like it because it wasn't your He-Man, in part because it didn't have Orca in it, who was your favorite character. But also, this is interesting because of the lack of Adam as Prince Adam. We only have him as He-Man in that movie. And so speaking of Prince Adam, we ended our conversation talking about the fact that this double life that Adam lives as Adam and He-Man is as good as you can get for a metaphor for being in the closet. And even the fact that he wears lavender when he is Adam and he wears almost nothing when he is He-Man kind of supports that sense of like this double life and needing to keep a secret and feeling sort of the anxiety of keeping the secret, which again, a little cognitive dissonance insofar as like that created a lot of like delight in the viewers because dramatic irony is fun for the viewer. So like I cried laughing thinking about the fact that like his friends don't recognize that the green tiger is the same green tiger when he puts a mask on. So all in, it sounds to me like the original TV show is maybe not worth returning to unless you're doing something else at the same time. But there are really interesting lessons to learn from the exercise. I'm now looking forward to seeing the movie that gets released later this week while we're recording. It will have already been released by the time you're listening to this, listener. So anyway, thank you for reminding me of this. I actually now really want to put She-Ra on the list because
we should.
Now that we've
definitely
had this conversation. But before then, next week, I'm going to change what our plan was. So this is news to you. I'm bringing you my deep thoughts about train spotting next week.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Talk soon. This show is a labor of love, but that doesn't make it free to produce. If you enjoy it even half as much as we do, please consider helping to keep us overthinking. You can support us at our Patreon. There's a link in the show notes. Or leave a positive review so others can find us. And of course, share the show with your people. Thanks for listening. Our theme music is Professor Umlaut by Kevin MacLeod from Incompetech.com. Find full music credits in the show notes.
Thank you to Resonate Recordings for editing today's episode.
Until next time, remember, pop culture is still culture. And shouldn't you know what's in your head?